네, 시작할게요. 하나, 둘, 셋. 먼저 한국 관객분들에게 인사 부탁드릴게요.
Hello, my name is Natalli에 Albares and I'm the director of the film Clarasola and the co-writer. And it's very nice that it gets the opportunity to meet the Korean audience.
이번에 스웨덴영화제를 통해 가지고 감독님의 클라라솔라를 이제 상영하게 되었는데요. 이 클라라솔라를 떠올리게 된 계기에 대해서 말씀 부탁드릴게요.
It's a very concrete moment because I was applying to a screenwriting school and they gave us 2 pictures and they say make us a little story, 1 page with these 2 pictures. And that's where the story was originated, and the first scene that was originated was a scene of masturbation with the fireflies in the forest. And that's the origin of the film, and then I developed more who is the character, her relationship to nature, and the religious aspect of the society that she's living in and the oppression that it means.
그래서 그 이야기를 좀 어떻게 발전시켰는지에 대해서도 좀 소개 부탁드릴게요.
Yes. We started, I have a co-writer called Maria Camila Arias, and we worked through Skype the whole time, even if it was not pandemic yet. We moved the script back and forth and based it a lot on our memories of growing up in Latin America. And from there we developed, because we grew up with a lot of women in our life, and then these women were reproducing the patriarchal norms even when men weren't there. And this theme interested us, so we keep developing towards there.
말씀하신 것처럼 마리아 카밀라 아리아스하고 이제 공동으로 각본을 했는데 혹시 그 마리아 카밀라 아리아스를 선택한 어떤 배경이 있을까요?
Yes, she was recommended by a producer, and I read her previous scripts. And also she had a similar relationship to me, to Latin America, because I grew up in Latin America, in Costa Rica, and then moved to Europe, to Sweden, and then she grew up in Colombia and then moved to Canada. So we both have a very respectful and loving memory of Latin America, but could also look back with some skepticism to some of the norms reproduced there.
그렇게 해서 이제 완성한 그 작품이 이 감독님의 이제 장편 연출 데뷔작이기도 하고 2021년에 칸 영화제 감독의 밤에 소개되고 또 지난해 11월에 이제 스웨덴에서 개봉을 했는데요. 아마 그렇기 때문에 그 영화를 첫 선을 관객에 보였을 때 기분이 좀 남달랐을 것 같아요. 그래서 그 기분에 대해서 말씀을 해주신다면요.
It's always interesting because we have been so focused on just finishing the film that it was difficult to imagine what's the audience reaction going to be. It has been a nice process, and meeting the audience, I was very surprised to see so many could identify with Clara, even if people are very different to Clara. It doesn't matter if it's a 50-year-old man from Iran or a 20-year-old girl from, I don't know, Sweden. It doesn't matter. People come and speak about the character in a very relatable way. And something else that was nice is that people can see many of the feministic themes in the film as metaphor for other themes. For example, the right to choose over your own body is a theme in the film, and you can apply this to other themes that are very actual these days as well, and in relation to abortion or choosing who you love, or so that the film could be applicable to other themes in society as well. It's interesting that people can connect on different levels, because the film has different layers, it's about sexuality, about nature, about healing, about feminism, about so many things. And then different people connect to different of the elements. Some people connect to different characters. So this was an interesting discovery.
아마 한국 관객도 클라라솔라를 보게 되면 또 이제 한국 관객들 나름의 어떤 이해를 가지고 이 영화를 보게 될 것 같은데요. 그중 이제 중요한 역할을 하는 게 클라라 역할을 맡은 웬디 친치 아리아 배우인데요. 어떻게 좀 캐스팅을 하게 된 건가요?
So I always knew I wanted to cast a person that had very intimate relationship to her body, in the sense that she has a lot of body consciousness. So, for example, a dancer or martial arts or gymnast or someone who knew her body very well. So I start to look in these areas, and I find Wendy in a dance performance. She's a professional contemporary dancer and has never acted in film before. And we brought her to casting and fell in love with her. We work a lot with the body. Like, I am a mime performer, and like my university degree is in mime, so I'm very nerdy about the body. And she's a dancer, so she's very nerdy too. And we communicate a lot with these tools of the moving body. And the reason, I don't know, she was Clara from the very first casting. And as a matter of fact, I had written Clara more than 10 years younger. But when Wendy came, we fell in love with her. And I changed the script, and I changed the family. I changed some of the dynamics for it to work, that she was older, and that it will be Wendy who does the character.
안 그래도 그 이제 웬디 친치아 아리아 배우님의 연기도 그렇고 이렇게 좀 보면서 느낀 게 연기들이 자연스러워서 전문 배우도 있긴 하지만 또 비전문 배우들도 다른 배역에 있지 않았을까 하는 궁금증이 좀 들던데요. 그건 어떤가요?
Yeah, nobody has acted before. They have very different professions. In Spanish language, we call it natural actors instead of non-actors, because it's nicer, not negating something. And now they are actors because they play in a film. Yes, the process was very interesting. We were announcing on Facebook. We went to schools to ask. We went to activities for older ladies. I went in the street with flyers, and I asked people, "You want to come to the casting?" People are very suspicious. They think they have to pay something. But in the end, we managed to find these people, and I wasn't looking specifically for natural actors. I was looking for anyone. So we have actors, we have dancers, we have anyone can come. But in the end, these people were better for the character than professional actors.
감독님이 표현하신 내추럴 액터라는 표현이 저도 굉장히 좀 인상 깊은데, 그렇다면 그런 내추럴 액터들에게 이 연기에 관한 부분을 감독님이 주문할 때는 그 전문 배우와는 좀 다른 어떤 그 시스템이 필요하지 않았을까 하는 생각이 드는데요. 그건 어떤가요?
It was a very important process before, during the rehearsal. We have 3 weeks of rehearsal. I decided to take work together with a man from Colombia called Carlos Fagua Medina, and he's an acting coach specializing in natural actors. Because it was important to me that they have a good experience shooting the film, and that they have the tools that they need, because actors learn the tools in university, and now we need to do a quick course of 3 weeks, and me and Carlos have very different techniques, so we combine our techniques and we rehearse for 3 weeks with the actors. We improvise, we play, and we don't read the script until the week before shooting. So we improvise all the scenes, and then at the end, we read it together. So when I am casting them, I tell them myself the whole script. Every scene, I tell them there are sensitive scenes, there is sex, there is religion. So they know what is happening in the film before they accept. But then we read it at the end. We read it right before the shooting. We rehearsed for 3 weeks without reading the script. A lot of the process has to do with learning how to be vulnerable in front of the camera, but still keeping, your integrity and feeling good, because some scenes might be very sensible. So it's a lot of teaching them tools to open like a door to be vulnerable, but when it's cut and the scene is over, they can close the door. So it's not so, with the personal. So it's like a tool for this. So this is one part, and then this is on one side on the characters that are not Clara. This was especially important, and for Clara as well. But for Clara, there is another whole part that has to do with her physicality, that I work a lot with her, that have to do with internal images. And for example, we describe Clara as 20% wolf. So on her inside, she's always 20% wolf, and she has fire. She has little roots inside that keep her position. So we work with all these internal images that me and Wendy used to communicate, because we are so used to working with the body. So it was a bit different process than with the other characters. We work with her voice, with a clown technique. So her voice is very different from Wendy's voice.
확실히 그 감정을 드러내는 게 이게 표정도 중요하지만 몸짓으로도 드러낸다는 점에서 이 클라라 역을 맡은 웬디라는 배우가 댄서였다는 점도 굉장히 좀 도움이 많이 되지 않았을까 하는 그런 뭐 생각도 드네요.
Yeah, maybe.
그리고 이제 제목이 클라라솔라고, 또 극 중에 이제 주인공 이름이 클라라솔라인데, 솔라라는 의미가 이제 외로움이라는 뜻을 갖고 있는 것으로도 좀 알고 있고, 근데 클라라라는 이름을 또 정한 배경이 있는지도 궁금하거든요. 그에 대해서 좀 설명을 해주신다면요.
I mean, initially it had to do with her feeling more comfortable on her own in a way in nature, and the relationship that she has in nature where she is alone, but really she's not. But also later it had a meaning that for me the word alone, or sola in Spanish, is a very empowering word in one way, because it means that you can make it on your own. But it's very double, because it's also a kind of sad word in a way, because it means that you can make it on your own. It's the same thing. And in relationship to being yourself and being free and being who you are, that sometimes to do that you have to break chains with a community around you to be able to be yourself. You have to sometimes be alone. The best case scenario is you can be yourself within the community, but sometimes a lot of people, not only in relationship to Clarasola the movie, but in the world, to be themselves because they are not accepted in their community, they have to break these chains and find healing by themselves. So it's very double. It's both empowering and sad, I think.
뭐 물론 이제 극 중에 클라라가 이제 뭐 외롭기도 하고 하지만, 또 이제 주변에 보게 되면 유카라는 이제 말도 등장하고 반딧불이도 있고, 이제 곤충을 통해 가지고 그런 클라라의 심리를 또 우회적으로 그들을 통해서 좀 드러낸다는 점도 저에게는 좀 인상적이었거든요. 특별히 그렇게 곤충이라든지 동물을 통해서 클라라의 심리를 대변한 그런 배경이 있을까요?
Well, two things. One thing is I wanted to make the nature a character in the film, and even if it's true that she can feel the earth and her fingers are there, and like more with like plants and the greenery around it, I also wanted to have different movements, and chose to place this character also partly in the Mero Ijuka and the beetle Ophir and the fireflies, but especially the beetle and Yuka because they are somehow friends with Clara. So in part it's this. The other reason is that Clara does feel more comfortable in non-human nature because it's a more equal relationship. So the non-human nature doesn't require anything of Clara, so she doesn't have to play a role there. When she's alone there, she's just, herself. And I think this is something that people that see the film can recognize themselves in, and that this feeling of somehow magical realism that is a feeling that we all carry somehow when we are alone in nature, because we can recognize this that almost feels magical when we are completely alone. But I think that what it is just ourselves, that we don't get the opportunity to just be ourselves without playing a role in society so often. So it is very liberating, and I think this is the relationship that she has, and also a way to show her kind of augmented senses in a way, because Clara has a different language than the other people in the film, is through her communication with nature.
감독님이 이제 마법 같은 순간이라고 표현했는데 저는 그 순간을 어떤 장면에서 느꼈냐면 딱정벌레죠. 그 클라라의 손 위에서 딱정벌레 이렇게 날아가면서 슝 이렇게 날아가는 장면이 있는데 그 장면을 과연 어떻게 촬영을 했을까 너무 궁금하거든요. 그래서 그 장면에 대해서 좀 소개해 주시죠.
Well, a lot of patience. So, because, well, directing, there's so many things I could not direct, like, nature, the weather, the horse. I have some trainers, but still, she can do whatever she wants, and she's a big animal. And then the beetle, zero control. So we have a lot of different, we have many beetles, and they live with me in my room. And yes, we have a terrarium, and we feed them, and they're living more with us than in nature. They live for longer with us, 5 weeks, and outside 3 weeks. So, and but when they start getting old, they get a little bit more slow, So for some scenes, we use the young ones that are very happy and they want to fly all the time and move. And for some scenes, we use the old one that are more sad. And still, and where we shoot Clara is very cold, and with the coldness they go more still, and when you blow warm, they come back to life in a way. So this is the magic. So it's a combination, partly this, but partly also VFX after. So yeah, a combination of this. And the funny thing is that I have someone in the audience who tells me he find a dead beetle, and he thought, oh, I will do like Clara, and he put it in his hand and he blew, and it did move. It did move because he is giving warmth, so he felt magical.
그래서 이제 이 영화를 보게 되면 그런 촬영을 하는 데 있어가지고 굉장히 좀 힘든 점도 많았을 것 같고, 또 특히 그 클라라의 이제 심리를 보여주기 위해서인지 좀 밀착해서 찍는 장면도 굉장히 많더라고요. 그래서 혹시 이제 감독님께서는 촬영 감독님에게 그 촬영과 관련해서 요구한 부분이 좀 무엇이 있을까 궁금하거든요. 그래서 거기에 대해서 또 설명을 해주신다면요.
Well, it's a very interlaced collaboration, so we do everything together. So it wasn't like a request, but we talk a lot about how Clara sees the world, and that her senses are somehow heightened, that she pays attention to small things that other people don't. So in this sense, it becomes natural that we decide to film things very up close, and not only in the cinematography, also in the sound. We hear sounds that are very small that maybe other people don't hear, but Clara does. We also think a lot about the 4 elements, like earth, fire, water, air, and what are the parts in the scripts where we need to feel those elements, and also deciding to shoot the non-human nature kind of the same as Clara's body, so we can go seamlessly between Clara and nature a lot. This is one part, and then there is the things that have to do with magical realism. We decide that we want them to feel very grounded and very true. So we try to not cut so much in these scenes that have something more like magical realism. So we would go from the plant directly to her, or some things like that. So to help them feel more true.
이제 이 영화는 이제 클라라의 어떤 독립, 클라라의 해방을 이제 저는 다룬다고 그렇게 생각을 했어요. 그런 점에서 이제 흥미로웠던 그런 설정 중에 하나가, 클라라가 차를 타고 이동할 때마다 그 집에 수를 세잖아요. 그게 아마 이제 클라라가 세상 밖으로 나갈 때 거리가 얼마나 되나 좀 재는 것이 아닐까 하는 생각이 들던데요. 이와 같은 설정을 좀 떠올린 배경이 있을까요?
I think it's what you said. She uses, she finds her own methods to live in this society and this world. And it's discounting houses is a way that she uses to orient herself, to find places. A way for me to say, oh, this woman has a really good memory. Like she is intelligent in very different ways than me or than some other people in the films. So yeah, so to enhance other qualities that she has, and also that also make her, you know, human. She's not only, you know, this being that people see her as, but she likes, you know, playing video games in the phone. She likes the shows in the TV. She counts houses. Is very human. You know?
이 영화의 화면비가 제가 확인하니까 2.35대 1이더라고요. 근데 이제 이 극 중에 클라라가 그 엄마의 이제 지배하에 있어가지고 굉장히 큰 답답함을 느끼도 하는데, 그렇기 때문에 저는 좀 더 작은 비율도 감독님께서 좀 고려하진 않았을까 하는 궁금증이 들던데요. 거기에 대해서 좀 답해 주신다면요.
Well, for me, this is Clara's film, and Clara is bigger on the inside than on the outside. And somehow her body is like a shell that is constricting her. And for me, the ending and the healing has to do with that. Like, she doesn't fit in this world somehow. She's more than that. And that is why we chose this ratio, where we also, apart from this, could see a lot of the nature here. And still, I do think that it does give this claustrophobic feeling, because we very consciously decide that, yes, we are outside a lot, we see a lot of nature, but it's still enclosed within the frame because we don't see a lot of sky, which the anamorphic gives, you know, because it's so poof. And then at some moments we see sky, so we can feel more of that liberation, but then we need to move the camera for this. So yes, this is one of the reasons.
그렇기 때문에 이제 이 영화 같은 경우는 그 자연을 강조할 수 있는 로케이션을 구하는 게 가장 좀 중요한 또 그 배경이 아니었을까 싶은데요. 여기 보니까 코스타리카의 바라 블랑카라는 곳이더라고요. 그래서 어떻게 이 지역을 좀 이 배경으로 선택하게 됐는지 설명해 주신다면요.
Well, we location scouted for 1 year, so it took a long time to find. I started looking in the area close to where I grew up, which has this nature that I wanted for the film, which is a nature that is more normal in places of high altitude. It's a bit cold and it's very, very green intense. But we didn't find the house close to where I grew up. So then we start to look everywhere. And we go around the country. It was very nice because I got to know a lot of the country. And then in the end, we found this house, kind of early, but it was a big family living there. There was a river and no bridge, so we could not cross to the house with equipment, so we forget about this house. And 1 year later, we remember the house and we call, and they say, there is a bridge now, they built a bridge, and the family is not there, so it's empty. And we're like, oh, it's his fate. So we went there. It was, of course, just a white house, very boring. So we rebuilt with the art director Amparo Baeza, who is from Chile. And she bring a lot of things from Chile. I bring many like sweaters from Sweden. And like for the art department, I bring trolls to put in Clara's room. So this place is, in the end, we turn it into a fictional place. It's still Costa Rica and Latin America, but it has some influences from other parts in the world. And then it was nice there because the community was very involved, and many of the actors in the film are part of the community. They are the owner of the house, the neighbor, you know. And so the work was, we hired a lot of people in the community, which was nice.
그래서 그렇게 1년 동안 찾은 그 집을 태우고 이제 클라라가 그 집으로부터 이제 탈출하는 그런 설정으로 이 영화의 이제 결말부를 정하셨는데요. 처음부터 이 결말을 생각했던 건지 아니면 또 다른 결말도 있었던 건지 궁금한데요.
The burning of the house was there very early. I don't remember if from the very beginning. The thing I remember from the very beginning was always the ending in the river with Clara. This was there from the first version, the first one page, right? And sometimes when I was rewriting the script, there was a lot of questions around this, and it doesn't fit, and so I changed everything. But I keep this, even if I change a lot of other things. I think the burning maybe came a bit maybe second version or something like this. But it was always about liberation, about her having to leave this place in order to be free.
저는 이제 클라라솔라를 보면서 그게 좀 스티븐 킹의 캐리라는 이제 소설이 생각이 났거든요. 왜냐하면 이제 그 종교적인 분위기에서 억압하는 엄마라는 존재도 그렇고 이제 그 엄마에게서 딸이 이제 벗어난다는 그 결말도 그렇고 혹시 클라라솔라를 이제 만드시면서 떠올리시면서 참조한 어떤 뭐 영화라든지 소설이 좀 있었는지 궁금하네요.
Yes, I've heard this, and it's funny because I had not seen Carrie when I wrote it. After writing it, I saw Carrie because someone told me, "Oh, it reminds me of Carrie." And I saw it, and it definitely has a lot of elements that are similar, but I think Clara is a film about healing, and Carrie is not. Different genre. So this was definitely not an inspiration. We were more inclined to look at films that deal with magical realism and see how they portray it. For example, the films of Alice Rohrwacher, like The Wonders, or With the Animals. It's an American film. So many of these kind of films with magical realism, as well as me. And in terms of books, well, I grew up with the magical realism of Latin American cinema. Latin American literature. And probably have a lot of influences from there. But I would say the aesthetics were... the research we did was in base of those other kind of directors, and maybe like also like paintings and yeah.
아마 저는 원더스라는 영화가 국내에서 어떤 제목으로 틀어질지 모르겠지만 아마 감독이 페데리코 펠리니 말하는 거 아닌가 좀 궁금하거든요. So you say the Italian director is Federico Fellini?
No. Alice is a woman. It's a woman.
Woman.
It's I think Alice Rohrwacher. You should watch her films. She's really good.
이제 클라라솔라 영화 마지막에 보게 되면 이 오피르 레온에게 이 영화를 바친다는 그런 문구가 나오더라고요. 그래서 오피르 레온이라는 인물이 좀 누구인지 궁금하거든요.
Yes. So she was a friend, teacher, soulmate, everything from when I was growing up, when I was a teenager in Costa Rica. So she's a Colombian dancer that I learned a lot from, that committed, or that is not in Earth anymore. I think she's a kind of like Clara, like her, like she's too big for this world and had to move on. But took the decision to move on and liberate herself from, her body, which is too small for her in a way. So she's been a lot of inspiration for me in my life. And so it's kind of in honor of her, and there are a lot of elements that have to do with her. So when people that know her see the film, they recognize a lot of her in the film. But for other people, it's just a name,
감독님은 이제 그 첫 영화 클라라솔라를 이제 마치시고 이렇게 좀 한국 관객과도 만나고 전 세계 관객과도 만나고 계신데요. 두 번째 작품으로 준비 중인 작품이 혹시 있을까요? 그리고 있다면 좀 살짝 설명이 가능할까요?
Yes. So the next film, it's called The Wolf Will Tear Your Immaculate Hands. and we call it a gothic tropical drama. Because it kind of is in between different genres. It's still within the magical realism realm, but it's a bit darker maybe. So we describe it like if Clara is like digging in the earth a little bit, like 1 meter. This one is like a lot deeper. Yeah, and it's set in colonial Latin America.
마지막으로요, 이제 한국 관객분들이 이제 클라라솔라를 스웨덴 영화제를 통해서 보게 될 텐데요. 좀 어떤 점에 집중해서 봤으면 한다는 감독님의 바람을 좀 밝히신다면요.
Hello, thank you so much for coming to see Clarasola. I'm very happy that the movie can be there, very sad that I cannot be there, but at least Clara can travel and you can meet her. I hope you find something in the film that is good for you and that you have a nice evening. Thank you so much.
네, 마지막 인사 말씀 감사드리고요. 다음에는 한국에 직접 오셔가지고 한국 관객들과 만나기를 기대하겠습니다. 감사합니다.